Hey, Deb. What's the last name of the person for the inquiry? Alan.
We have the translation? I'll do it. Okay, I was gonna ask. So I'm gonna say,
Okay, great.
three things.
It's all right. That's all right. Good morning. We are about to enter into a spirit of worship. Before we do that, I want to remind you that the order of service is merely a suggestion and not written in stone. And this week there are a couple of changes that have occurred due to some technological glitches. One is that we left off the name of the composer of our introit, which is Alan Natlin. The second is that our offertory will not be a video. It will in fact be Deborah Bono playing Here Comes the Sun. I think those are the changes. Now, but stay tuned. Things are, fluid. We'll see what happens. We do want to enter into our spirit of worship at this time, first with our prelude, which is a video of Matt Johnson. There were a couple of people that were excited this morning thinking we had a guest. I will tell you that Matt is now home, recovering from his heart surgery last spring. He has indicated he anticipates trying to be back sometime in November. I've told him that we will receive him whenever he is ready, and we are delighted to continue to benefit from his talent and his gift and his music. So we begin with our video of Prelude number 1 by Ernst Bach, played by Matthew Johnson. You are invited at this time to light a silent candle of joy or sorrow if you desire. The words of the Reverend Sarah DeWall. Out of the flames of fear, we rise with courage of our deepest convictions to stand for justice, inclusion, and peace. Out of the flames of scrutiny, we rise to proclaim our faith with hope to heal a fractured and hurting world. Out of the flames of doubt, we rise to embrace the mystery, wonder, and awe of all there is and all that is yet to be. Out of the flames of hate, we rise with the force of love, love that celebrates our shared humanity. Out of the flames, we rise.
Good morning, I'm Deb Bonneau. I'm your happy intro music director. I'm having so much fun with these guys. 2 or 3 new people today that you haven't seen before, and I keep it coming. I hope we encourage you all to give us a try. Ashosho Devarim, Ashosham Devarim, translated is, the world is sustained by 3 things, by truth, by justice, and by peace.
Good morning. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Worcester, a congregation of love, hope, and justice, inspiring people to take on the challenges of a changing world. My name is Beth Posner-Waldron, and I'm one of your worship associates this morning. We begin by acknowledging that in Worcester, Massachusetts, we work, learn, live, and worship on the sea's ancestral homeland of the Nipmuc people who survive and remain active as the Nipmuc Nation. As the coordinator of the Get Out the Vote team, I want to invite you to join us during coffee hour for the next few Sundays to be a Good Trouble congregation. So in April of this year, Jason Hicks was hired to be the campaign director for UU the Vote, the UUA's voting rights campaign, and he challenged congregations to put our faith into action and galvanize ourselves to vote love and defeat hate, upholding the legacy of the late Congressman John Lewis by getting into good trouble, as he said, to work collectively to get in the way of injustice and get into good trouble to build a truly multiracial democracy. So beginning today, the Get Out the Vote team is offering you opportunities during coffee hour to get into some good trouble and put your faith into action by helping to communicate voting information to BIPOC communities in states that have a history of voter suppression, and also be prepared yourself to vote in the upcoming election in Massachusetts. Failure to pass national voting rights legislation has made it more important than ever that we help folks navigate the restrictive voting procedures that have been established in their state, particularly in Georgia, where there are a number of important seats in play on a state and federal level. As part of our UU values, I feel it's important to help get people to the polls where candidates are running who will respect the integrity of the electoral process and protect women's rights to reproductive freedom. Today during coffee hour in Fellowship Hall, we'll be writing postcards to Black voters in Georgia, a state that's made voting more difficult, reduced access to early voting in person, and their drop-off ballot boxes for mail-in voters, where they redrew district lines with gerrymandering to weaken the power of minority voters and made it a felony to hand out water who are waiting in long lines on election day. I hope you'll take some time to write out a postcard or two or pick up a packet that you can work on from home. If you're joining our worship services by Zoom, please get in touch with me for how you can take action from home on your own. Also, on Thursday at 6:30, I invite you to join me and members from the Unitarian Society of Northampton and Florence with a phone banking session to call voters and join on Zoom to call voters in Georgia. We'll be using the PDI platform of Center for Common Ground and using the voting list from the Atlanta NAACP, reaching out to folks to give them information for early voting and voting by mail. These are nonpartisan calls, so you don't have to get into who's running. And most often when you do make these calls, you're leaving a message, which is a script that's provided for you. So if you're nervous about talking to people directly, most of the time you will not be speaking directly to somebody, but you'll be making a contact with them, which is still important. I'll be providing the training, and you can stay on Zoom while you make calls in case you have questions and need assistance. So if you have a computer to join by Zoom, you can do this. I'd love to see 10 people from our congregation join us. If you have any questions, see me during coffee hour, and we'll have another link to sign up in this week's message. Having people from this congregation take part in writing postcards and doing phone banking will help protect our democracy and help us qualify as a good trouble congregation. So to continue with our welcome, we want to offer a special welcome to those of you who are new or visiting us for the first time this morning. We're delighted that you're here, and we hope you'll join us in Fellowship Hall following the service for refreshments and conversation right down the hall, and write some postcards. If you have questions or you want more information about this service or any of the ministries and programs of this congregation, do not hesitate to ask. We invite you to fill out one of the cards that's found in the pews, and these cards can be placed in the offering plate or given to one of the ushers or greeters this morning. For those of you joining us online this morning, we offer you a very special welcome. Hello. For safety purposes, and so we might come to know you better, as you're able, please put your name on the video feed. Please take a moment for those of you here to sign one of the attendance clipboards that are now being circulated. I know there's one here, hopefully on that side. You're not obligated to sign, but we appreciate your information and will use it only for church purposes. During the service, we offer an opportunity to share a brief personal joy or sorrow. If you'd like yours to be read aloud by their minister, please print it on an index card in the pew and drop it in the collection plate when it comes around. These cards will also be posted outside the minister's office to be shared with our friends at other services. For those online, you can place a joy or sorrow in the chat, and we'll read it during this time in the service. In the foyer are listening devices and large print service programs and hymnals for those who may find their assistance beneficial. Please see one of our ushers who'll be pleased to assist you. I invite you to turn your technology to worship mode. And finally, please note on the back of your order of service, there'll be time for some short verbal announcements following the postlude. So I'm very glad that you are here and hope that this morning is an opportunity for rest, reflection, and rejuvenation.
Good morning. I'm Shirley Trait, and I'm going to be reading the opening words. And these words are titled, There is a Quiet Courage, and it's by Reverend Gretchen Haley. There is a quiet courage in the choice to let go of the past and the choice to be present in this new day, to live for this hour, this moment, and to believe its possibility, to release the regrets, to stop spinning stories of what was and is no longer, to accept this gift, to believe that we are worthy still of happiness, of ease, of delight and hope, to believe we have all we need to heal and to receive this wholeness with ready hearts and open minds, open hands, saying only thank you. Come, let us practice this surrender together, gathering up all the brave boldness we know can be found in our bones and blood. If we will breathe together, knowing ourselves a part of this one life, filled with mystery, creativity, and power, changing us, growing us, and calling us into partnership with all that is. Come, let us worship together.
Would you please rise in body or in spirit and join together in singing hymn number 211, We Are Climbing Jacob's Ladder. 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 We are climbing on. Every round goes higher, higher. Every round goes higher, higher. Every round goes higher, higher. We are climbing on. If we are stumble, will you help me? If I stumble, will you help me? If I Please be seated. You know, we put the choir up front here and everyone sounds like a choir, and I'm wondering why everyone isn't standing up here. I think that's the message this morning, isn't it? Right? You know, to get as many people here as possible to choir rehearsals, which are now happening for a half hour after service and before service. So you can come a little early and stay just a little late and be part of this magnificent group of people. And here's the deal. We'll take singers of whatever caliber, right? We'll help you read music. We'll help you find the harmony. Whatever it is, we will work with you. There we go. If you are noticing that the minister seems a little unsteady on his feet, I will share with you that I have sprained my lower back and am well taken care of right now, maybe seeking some medical intervention to heal more swiftly, but no, I have not taken anything that makes me intoxicated. I just want to make certain that that's dealt with early. So these are the words of Philippia Yo de Vieres. It takes more than breath to be alive, more than blood to find your line, more than a hand to throw a stone. It takes a heart beaten into bricks and built into a house where humanity finds a home. A house is in the street, and the street lies on the land, and a land of corpses and speech is a land of lies, the lies we tell to keep the best of our own. Family, country, God. Whatever we imagine is our home, the best of us are rivers who give themselves to oceans. Rivers who flow themselves over cliffs into oceans. Rivers who never look back, never regret what they have given. And the more they give, the more flows out. Will you? Won't you? Will you? Won't you walk behind Mandela? Follow his feet along Justice Street? Won't you? Will you? Beat your heart into a home for all humanity? He was not alone. 1 million hands held him up, Colossus. And there is no house without mortar, no wall without foundation, no Mandela within Biki Sisulu Dadado, no Biko without Yogi, without Sobukwe, without Goldberg, no Fisher without Solvo, without First. And will you walk behind them and shout freedom through your thirst? Spend your breath for justice, to prison or to death. It takes more heart than you think you have, but you are a river. And heroes because we make them heroes. Motho, Kimotho, Kebatha, Babang. River, ocean, falling into the sun. And when languages are forgotten and our daily life is done, only when we stand together can we say that we have one heart, one love, one. Would you like to hear some good news? Yes. I'll accept that. Enough people have had their caffeine this morning. That's pretty good. I like that. So the good news this morning is that our children are here reveling in the sight of a variety of creatures in our fellowship hall. with a wonderful local group that does educational presentations with live animals. I've asked them to keep the large python snake, if they brought it, out of the sanctuary so that we don't confirm everything the Baptists have been saying about us for years, right? I think it's wonderful that we have this opportunity to engage our community at large and to give our children an experience they may not yet have had. And I'm so delighted for the work of our Religious Exploration Committee in making this happen this morning. So that's why our children are in Fellowship Hall and not here, and why we have foregone a Children for Children's collection today. If you brought change in thinking that you were going to contribute that today, I invite you to bring it back next week, and we will continue that wonderful tradition. Also, this is a Good Trouble Sunday, and we're going to have Good Trouble Sundays for a few more weeks in preparation for the upcoming election. And I want to acknowledge and thank Beth Posner Waldron and Lynn Gustia and others who have made this effort to become involved in our voter engagement process in service to those who have been most marginalized by efforts to restrict voting rights in the country. This is a nonpartisan effort. This speaks to a reality that everyone faces, and I want to encourage us to become a Good Trouble congregation. We already are. The denomination may not know that yet, but I can assure you that we have gotten ourselves into good trouble so often that it probably should be our moniker. And I want to really appreciate Beth for all of her work in doing this, and I would encourage you to see her as well. In a little bit, we're also going to hear from Linda Morris, who is looking for more walkers for our crop walk, which is coming up in 2 weeks. And I encourage you to sign up for those of you who would like to be involved in the Holden Crop Walk. And what's really powerfully important about this, and I can't stress this enough, is that so many of the efforts that we engage in our world often take money out of the community. And there is a portion of the money that will go to serve the mission of Church World Service, which oversees program dealing with hunger across the world. But the majority of the money that is collected for the Holden Crop Walk goes to local food banks. And ours is one who will also benefit from this. So we are actually serving our own mission when we become involved in the crop walk. And I want to encourage us to do that as well. Those of us that are able to walk a few miles. Sherry and I are going to bow out this year because we're sharing back issues. But I want to highlight and thank Linda for all of her good work. She'll be available to Fellowship Hall today as well, and hope that you will speak with her. That's our good news this week. And there is so much more. I hope you'll catch up with all of it in our newsletter. And if you haven't gotten the newsletter yet, speak to one of our ushers so that we can make certain we have your email address, and we will make certain to add you to that list. As is our tradition, every time that we come together for an act of worship, we take up an offering in service to the mission and ministries of this congregation. So I invite you to be generous as you are able. Reach into the pocket of the person sitting in front of you, pull out their checkbook, write that check you have always wanted to write, or beside you. I mean, in front, beside, whatever works, right? And we will receive the offering at this time. of you who just had a 70s flashback, just saying. 60s. I was in 66. It's barely a memory, you know. It is a Yom Kippur song, interestingly enough. And I appreciate very much you doing that. We come to that time in our service when we're given pause to consider what is deepest in our hearts and most profoundly on our minds or in the work of our hands. In the days that have transpired or in the prospect of days to come, joys and sorrows that touch us deeply and are given another measure of meaning because of our capacity to share them in the midst of a company that claims us as a co-journeyer. So I invite those of you who have joys or sorrows this day to form lines on either side of the sanctuary and come to speak briefly into the microphone, telling us first who you are, so that those online and those using our auditory enhancement devices might also participate in this important ritual, and then to light a candle, if you so desire. If you would like me to read your joy or sorrow aloud, you may come forward with it on an index card, and I'll be glad to do that, and we'll post these outside of my office for others in forthcoming services to be able to appreciate. Are there joys or sorrows today?
Hi, I'm Sherry, and I know I don't talk a lot about my kids to y'all out there because you don't really know them, but I've learned this week to say the sentence that my oldest daughter has accepted a research fellowship at Duke University to to begin her PhD work in pharmaceutical engineering.
We all hope that our children make enough money to be able to take care of us in the way of our own choosing when we are older, so grateful for the news. Deb Van Backenberg writes, my sorority sister Ellen, who works as a PR director for UVA Medical School on COVID, has COVID. We ask for prayers for her. And I also want to invite those of you online, if you have a joy or sorrow to share, you may place it in the chat, and we'll make certain to include that as well this morning.
Hi, I'm Barry Brigham. Last night, after we got back from dinner, my significant other and myself were in bed together, first commiserating on each of our jobs. We're struggling at each of our jobs. Me because of my inability to be able to get things done, time management probably, and her because of being older and not being able to embrace the technology that probably we should have to this point. In the middle of our discussion at sometime after midnight, we noticed, or I noticed, that there were texts coming through, and I said, who the heck is texting you after midnight? And it was her, and this is, I was going to say that I love the way the service is today. And I love some of the stuff already that we've, Jacob Slatter, and some of the stuff that we said in terms of one, who was texting her were her Zionist friends. She's Jewish. And it's, her Zionist friends are all holding the line that Israel should remain a state, and that they're thinking that everybody who is Jewish should return to Israel, or the hope is that everybody returns to Israel eventually. Or maybe they do their sabbatical, or they do their whatever it is, they go back there. And of course Janie's saying essentially that all of us should be one. And I like that. And I struggle with people going back to, I've made something that's difficult for me, and maybe this is a rant and maybe this is an event, but something that I struggle, like, I'm going this Wednesday, this is fractured, I know, sorry. I'm going this Wednesday to their celebration, whatever it is. I don't know if it's the end of Rosh Hashanah or the beginning of Yom Kippur or one of those. I'll be the only one in the crowd that will be, well, I'm not really technically part of the Jew crew because I'm not Jewish. I struggle with embracing other faiths or having other faiths or us talking about embracing other faiths if we don't go there. And with the eighth principle, I have to ask myself, yes, it's great to be able to celebrate the Black culture and community and that, but are they here? And do we go there? I don't know, maybe. Or maybe we're supposed to stay here in our congregation and they're supposed to stay there in their congregations, and somehow during the week we get together. Does it happen with Jews? Does it happen with Blacks? Will we always be one in and of ourselves, and is being one trying to find all of the different paths? Or do I just have to go whichever way that I'm going to be, in this case, in this predominantly white community? Or predominantly, I don't know how different we are in terms of our religion, but it's just, I struggle with this stuff all the time. So thanks for this opportunity in this service.
Hi, I'm Dave Showalter, and ever since my wife Beckley and I were married, we have been wanting to explore Italy. And given that Italy is horribly hot in the summertime when there's school vacation, we haven't made it happen, but our nephew Zach and his wife Marissa, because Marissa always wanted to get married in Italy, drove us there to go there last week, for 10 days, and we got home last weekend. And so we had to move heaven and earth in order to get our son and our pets taken care of, but we made it there. We had a lovely time. We spent 3 days in Rome and then 3 days on the Amalfi Coast where the wedding was, and it was just lovely. As it so happens, that wedding was a super spreader event, and so my wife and 2 of her brothers and their wives all got COVID. Somehow I'm left standing. But Beckley sends her best to all of you. She's at home, isolated in the master bedroom, so I feel like I haven't seen her for a week. She just pokes her head out with the mask on occasionally. But anyway, we had a wonderful time, and she's doing okay, and hopefully she bounces back quickly. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Maya Desai, and I am a member at the moment up here as a member of the Connections team, which is a sort of a reinvention, for those of you who have been around for a long time, of the Member Services Committee. And we're just, at its very simplest, trying to reinvent to help connect folks who come here with folks they need to meet. And to that end, on Tuesday evening, please take a look at your message. If you are new, even a little bit new or a lot new, or just very curious, we're having an online meet and greet Zoom, and you can come and meet some of the Connections team members, and mostly we want you to just ask us questions about this place. And we're really eager to connect you. There are so many new faces, and it's so great. And before I leave, I want to say that the magic of Connections in this place showed itself in the way that we help settle the Afghan family that we take care of through this congregation in the refugee ministry. A really important connection was made because of someone in this congregation this week, and I'm being cryptic on purpose, but maybe one day I'll tell you the story. But they are a wonderful family, and they deserve all of the talents that this church has to offer, and we were able to give that to them. So 3 cheers for us.
My name is Wes Shepelek, and I'm glad to be here today. My mother just turned 89 on the 29th, and I've been taking care of her at my house for the last 12 or so years. And she just went into Briarwood Assisted Living, so it's kind of bittersweet, but she's doing very well. I'm very happy there, and just so much more there than I can offer at home, activities and such, and so I'm very grateful there. Also grateful to be here today because on when I was coming back from Briarwood, up Clark Street, if anybody knows the intersection of St. Nicholas, a car came through there about 40 miles an hour and hit the front of my car. Hit and run, he took off, and I'm very lucky. The cop, gentleman behind me had a dash cam. We saw it, and the police officer said I was very, very lucky that if I had been going a mile an hour faster, I probably wouldn't be here today. Thank you.
Nancy Hancock, you all know me probably. To follow with that, 89 is great, but 100 is even better, I guess. We really love to celebrate aging, and so my mom, Birgit, is the oldest woman in this, or man, in this congregation. And thanks to Beth Posner and Betty Genuine, who egged me on starting in June, we're going to have lunch with the minister in honor of my mom. She is now having too hard a time. I can't bring her to church services anymore, but she will be here on Wednesday, and we're luckily, other people have helped me put together a pretty fantastic lunch with the minister. So anybody who can make it, new or old, who wants to celebrate 100 is welcome to come. Thanks.
Noon on Wednesday.
Noon on Wednesday. There are special guests coming as well.
Hi, how you doing? My name is Alfred Villela. I just want to give thanks and to talk with someone all what I have been going through. It is my 4th week here in the US. I drove from Mexico City to here just to be with my 17-year-old kid who's going through the process of applications and all that to go to college. So I'm here to help him out. And I give so much thanks to being able to be here and in the other, around here in the lake. I just want to give thanks because of all that. And it's my first day that I come to this community, but I do believe in Unitarian Universalist as my faith. So please talk to me, after the service, and I just want to give thanks because of that. I'm so lucky.
I'm short, sorry. I'm Chloe Haddad. Some of you I know, some of you I don't. I have a joy to share. Earlier this year, my aunt, my father's sister, was diagnosed with breast cancer. On the 15th, she had her surgery for removal and everything's looking good. Yeah. And during her diagnosis process, she underwent some genetic testing, and they found a gene mutation called CHEK2 that is that runs in families. And because she I don't know, tested positive is the right way to say it, but since she has it, all close family members are able to be tested for free. And so I'm really excited to have my family have that option for their health care. I mean, granted, that part of the family is still residing in West Virginia, Ohio, areas where there are a lot of environmental pollutants that also contribute to those diagnoses. But it's good to have that information.
Hi, good morning. My name is Kate, As I'm sitting here this morning, I'm having this kind of flashback to years ago, a decade or more, when I first came to this place to check it out, because I knew a little bit about Eunice, and I knew that this was my vibe. I remember getting to this point in the service and just like looking at my watch and being like, we're 45 minutes in, like when's it gonna start? Because I grew up in a very different faith tradition where it was, you sat down and things were happening up here and you kind of followed along and did the thing and then everybody left, and this place is not that. And I guess that's my joy, is that this feels normal now, and I don't know, glad to be here.
Hi, I'm Linda Morse, and first of all, I want to clarify that the committee for Loaves and Fishes made the decision to not accept monies this year because our coffers are full, and the money will instead go to the mustard seed. So also, I know Erin spoke very positively about the crop walk, and I know that I am going to be in competition with Beth, but I will be at the table in Fellowship Hall, and I ask you to please consider a donation today or picking up a packet that you can take with you and beg your family, friends, co-workers, neighbors to contribute also. The Church World Service is doing an incredible job, and they are, of course, working with the Ukraine refugees, including setting up classroom pods to educate the children. It's just so much more. So I'm going to keep bugging you. The walk is 2 weeks from today, and I know some will not be able to attend, but I hope we have a very good showing. Thank you.
Just the right height, Linda. Thank you. My name is Lynn Gustila, and I just wanted to report that this Tuesday, my son-in-law's mother in El Salvador will be having an interview at the U.S. consulate to get a visa to come. And my son-in-law, then she will have to, if it goes well, she'll have to travel within the next 6 months. And my son-in-law will have to go to El Salvador to travel with her because she has barely traveled out of her village. Also, my daughter is pregnant and is due in March. So they're trying to juggle all these things. When should he go to pick up his mother? Also, they just have 2 bedrooms in the house, so my son-in-law is busy trying to turn a spare space into a bedroom. So there's a lot going on. I don't know, congratulations to these young people for being able to take all this on and juggle it. So keep them in your thoughts. Thank you.
So I'm Diane. It's nice to be back, finally. A big event happened in Florida this week. So I'm thinking of my sister-in-law who lives in Port Charlotte. The eye of the hurricane went nearly over her house, and she's doing okay. She lost a screen house, that's not bad. My sister lives in Jacksonville. She did fine. We were down visiting, so we scooted home a day early. My nephew lives in Tampa. He did okay. And I'm thinking about some of our expatriates, the Plumbers and Lynn Ritchie, and a number of people in the congregation, Lee Hill, who has family there, and Deb Merrill, who has family there, and I'm forgetting somebody else. So blessings on everyone in Florida. It was a horrible event. Lots more to come. So I'm going to light a candle for the people of Florida.
The good news is that the Plumbers have moved back to the area and are now living in Marlboro, and were here yesterday, so they escaped damage. We also think about Sandy Pariser and Kathleen Pariser as well in Florida. Let us be in the spirit of prayer and meditation. Spirit of life, source of our inner and outermost being, we come today with thoughts, with the desire to reach out and to help heal that part of our world that suffers. Especially this day, we are mindful of all of those who have been impacted by hurricanes. We look forward to opportunities to be able to serve their well-being. Grateful this day also for those seasoned members of our community who have reached ripe old age and whose lives give meaning to ours, whose experience helps to clarify ours. We would also give thanks for the opportunity to be together as family and friends, for the opportunity to find freedom, to work for justice, to live in hope. For all of this, for all of that which has gone said, and all of that that has transcended the spoken word this day, we are grateful, we are thankful, and we offer the best of ourselves in service to the healing of all. Amen, and blessed be. My name is Dave. Most people call me
Is this the little girl I carry? Is this the little boy at play? I don't remember growing older. When did they? When did she get me to the beauty? When did he grow to be so tall? Wasn't it yesterday when they were small? Sunrise, sunset, sunrise, sunset, swiftly flow the days. Seedlings turn overnight to sunflowers, blossoming even as we gaze. Sunrise, sunset, sunrise, sunset, swiftly fly the years, one season following another, laden with happiness and tears. is the little boy a bridegroom? Now is the little girl a bride? Under that canopy I see them side by side. Place the gold ring around her finger. Share the sweet wine and grape glass. Soon the full circle will have come to pass. Sunrise, sunset, sunrise, sunset, swiftly flow the days. Seedlings run overnight to stars, blossoming even as we gaze. Sunrise, sunset, sunrise, sunset, swiftly fly the years. One season flowering another, laden with happiness and
Now that we have had our sermon, we will turn to the closing hymn. Fiddler on the Roof is, in fact, one of my favorite musicals of all time. And I have found this week myself going back and watching Zero Mustal as Tevye. But my favorite scene in there actually has nothing to do with Tevye and everything to do with the rabbi, whom the townsfolk come to in the middle of the play, the musical, when the Russians are tearing them away from their homeland, and says to the rabbi, "Is there a blessing for the Tsar?" And the rabbi responds after thinking for a moment, "May God bless the Tsar and keep the Tsar as far away from us as possible." It is a theme within Judaism about coming to a source of truth and wisdom and asking the question, what shall we do? And it's really that act of coming to the source of wisdom and truth and asking the question this morning, what is courage? As we begin a month-long meditation on the subject as part of our Soul Matters theme ministry. This morning, I wanted to talk about oneness, which is not often associated with the idea of courage, and yet it is very important as an introduction to courage to understand the importance of oneness. And it comes to me this week from two places. One is the celebration of Yom Kippur, the day of at-one-ment. It is an opportunity in Judaism for people to repent, to repair relationships, to acknowledge the ways in which all of us fall short of our ideals and the ways that we treat each other in the planet. But it involves this sense that we do this not in order to better ourselves, but in service to that which is larger than the self, in service to echad, one in Hebrew. And the story that is at the center of this meditation for me this morning is the story of Rabbi Akiva. And it's said that when the Romans decreed that the teaching of Torah would be punishable by death, Rabbi Akiva's reaction wasn't surprising. This is Channon Morrison. The great scholar who had supported Bar Kokhba in his revolt against Rome gathered people together and gave public Torah lectures. Don't you love that? The government says, no, we're not going to do this. And Akiva says, come to the town square. We're in fact going to do this, and we're going to do it very openly. Is there anyone here who has had that kind of response to things that are going on in our world today? It wasn't long before Rabbi Akiva was charged and convicted, and when the rabbi was brought out for public execution, it was the hour to recite the Shema, which is central to Judaism. Shema Israel, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one. And he was concentrating on fulfilling the words to love God with all your heart and all your soul and all your strength. Shema Israel, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. The Talmud records that Akiva's final words before his death was, his students asked him, Master, even unto this extent, even unto death? To which Akiva responded, all my life I've been troubled by this verse, you shall love the Lord your God with all your soul. I've been explaining its meaning, all your soul, even if they take your life. I have always wondered, will I ever have the privilege of fulfilling this mitzvah? And now that the opportunity has finally arrived, shall I not seize it? Morrison continues, one might think that the daily recitation of Shema is a preparatory act. Each day we accept upon ourselves the yoke of heaven and prepare ourselves to love the divine, even as it has costed our lives. This daily declaration ensures that we will have the necessary reserves of ultimate courage and commitment should there ever arise a need for the ultimate sacrifice of martyrdom. I appreciate that commentary because it speaks very succinctly to the story, but I ultimately think that there is a larger message of the story of the martyrdom of Akiva, which is not the death. It's an easy question, don't you think? Would you ever give your life to, what would you give your life to in the sense of what would you sacrifice your life for? Those of us who have children would probably respond almost immediately for my family. The harder question is not who am I willing to die for, but what am I willing to give my life to? In other words, what am I willing to serve beyond myself? What am I willing to sacrifice for? What am I willing to give ultimately to? The story continues that, his students were surprised the teacher had already withstood the test. He had already committed himself to martyrdom. He had accepted it with noble determination. And Morrison writes, even the cruelest instruments of torture had failed to deter him. What need then there was for the rabbi to recite the final Shema? Why prepare for that which he was now fulfilling? But Akiva understood the intrinsic value of the Shema, this declaration of the love of God, the love of the divine, and the acceptance of his role is not just a tool to train the spirit. Each recitation of the Shema is in itself a wonderful act. Each time declaring the unity of the divine, our souls acquire greater holiness and closeness to that source of life and love. Shema is not just a means to prepare oneself, it is the recitation refines and elevates the soul. Makes me think about all of the activities that we've been talking about here today, and whether or not it's just that we're involved in those things because of our desire to serve the world, but also whether or not we ourselves are changed when we are involved in them. Our brother that is here with us this morning from Mexico City, who reminds us that we travel in order to serve something larger than ourselves, for love of family. But traveling across countries and traveling between neighbors and traveling within oneself are all part of the same process, which is to feel that deeper connection beyond the self, to serve something worthy of our attention, worthy of blessing, worthy of love. Morrison continues, until his final declaration of the Shema, Rabbi Akiva had recited the Shema with the thought that he was willing to sacrifice his life with all your soul for the love of the divine. His entire life, he had wondered whether he could be able to fulfill the mitzvah of the Shema in its most extreme and most demanding form. Will I ever have the privilege of fulfilling this mitzvah to the utmost at the hands of the Romans? He accepted the reign of heaven while sacrificing his life, not just as a mental vision, but in real life. And again, I go back to this issue. As a story, I think this actually reflects something far deeper than just simply martyrdom. It reflects what we are ultimately and deeply committed to as human beings, and how much of ourselves we're willing to give to it. The Talmud says that in his final breath, Akiva concentrated on the final word of the Shema as his soul departed. Do you remember what the final word is? Echad, one. He breathed his last breath with the word echad, God is one. This master of Jewish law was able to infer legal rulings from the smallest markings of the Torah. And says our commentator Morrison, in the final analysis, however, all of these detailed laws and myriad interpretations that he had been propounding during his lifetime were all part of a single harmonious system. Everything that Akiva had taught shared the same underlying theme: how to live life according to the supreme principle of divine oneness. It was thus fitting that the final word should be echad. That sense of oneness, that sense of unity, that sense that there is something to which we all relate and belong to, a larger life, larger than our own, larger than our families or our single communities, a life beyond all of that that we share, I think is at the core of what it means to honor Yom Kippur, which is to recognize that if we belong to this larger reality, then we must be able to be responsible for the ways in which we both serve that relationship and the ways that we fall short. And according to the Gates of Repentance, a standard Jewish work of Jewish ethics, written by Rabbi Gerona, repentance has a number of dynamics to it, a number of ways of repair: regretting and acknowledging the way one falls short, which, by the way, interestingly enough, is the definition of sin in Judaism. It's about missing the mark. Or what I like to say, it's about the willfulness of not trying to make a mark at all. Forsaking those opportunities when we decide we are not going to be participating in whatever that larger life is and actually stepping into it. Worrying about the future consequences of actions or inactions. Acting and speaking with humility. Oh, dear Lord, do I wish that we had waves of humility in this country. The willingness to be able to enter into whatever situation we are in, not from the standpoint that we know what is best, but that we humbly acknowledge that we are gloriously incomplete, and that by engaging with each other and with larger life, we might find a bit more completeness. Acting in the way opposite of those processes by which we miss the mark or don't make one, and understanding the magnitude of those situations, refraining from those ways in which we contribute to the larger uninvolvement or the larger missing the mark itself, and safeguarding against creating other opportunities not to do what we are supposed to do. Confessing that we are gloriously incomplete. Praying for at-one-ment. When I say praying for at-one-ment, for those of you for whom the word prayer does not work, and I get it, what I mean is attending within yourself to ways that you can orient yourself to a larger sense of belonging. Correcting those ways of being that shelter us from the opportunities of growth. Pursuing works of truth. Remembering all of ourselves. Refraining from committing the same things we have done in the past, and teaching others the lesson and wisdom that we have gained from our own working things out. The Judaic frame of tikkun olam, to repair the world, is united with it, means beginning by repairing one's self. That is the essence of the holiday. If you want to repair the world, begin with what is closest to you and work out from there, and have the courage to declare and live out that sense of oneness, ikhad, that is part of that experience. The other thing I was going to talk about this morning, but I'm going to forgo, is that today marks the anniversary in 1881 of the establishment of the Unitarian Church in Budapest, Hungary, largely based on the work of Francis David, who in Hungarian is Ferenc David. And there is a humongous history associated with David's participation in the debates among the religions, and what led ultimately to John Sigismund, the king of Transylvania at the time, issuing an edict of toleration, which meant for the first time, formally, multiple religions were identified and recognized as being legitimate. It's a story that's worth a sermon in and of itself, but what's powerfully important to me about the story of Francis David is that he wins the day and revels in that. And there's a stone outside of the Unitarian Church in Cluj, Romania, now called Koleshvar, where it is said Francis David stood on that stone and preached. And like Akiva, his frame was Egia az Isten, God is one. And that is the phrase that resonates with who he was, another act of oneness. But here's where the story gets interesting. Like Akiva as well, Francis David was martyred, but it was only after the Edict of Torda was rescinded, when, following years of peaceful coexistence, the world turned upside down with the Catholic response to Reformation. And he ended up in prison and finally himself being martyred. I don't know about the rest of you, but this idea that we spent kind of years reveling in a sense of accomplishment and achievement, and then turning around because the world said, no, we're going to do something totally different, doesn't resonate with anyone here. I understand that, right? No one has felt like they have gone back into purgatory, right? But the point here is not, are you willing to die for the cause, but continuing to reflect that refrain. What is it that you are willing to give yourself to in order to recognize your relationship to that which is larger than yourself and to serve the vitality of that larger sense of being? There are multiple ways to do this. A few of them have been discussed here today. 2 of them will be in Fellowship Hall after church. And there are plenty more. So we conclude the sermon this morning, that 30-second sermon that I was giving, remembering Shema Israel, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one. And Egia Az Ishtin, God is one. Remembering our service to that which is larger than ourselves, a reality that goes by many names, one of which may be God, all of which describe what we are committed to. Amen, and blessed be. Would you please join together in our litany number 633, found in your hymnals. The words of Chaim Stern. Once more, Atonement Day has come. We stand on holy ground between the day that was and the one that must be. How did we stumble? What did we take? Last year's confession came easily to the lips. Say then, why are our paths strewn with promises like fallen leaves? Say now. Would you please join together in our closing hymn, number 400, found in your gray hymnals, and rise in body or in spirit. So we're going to try to do this in a round. I'm going to invite the choir to begin, and then I'm going to invite this side of the sanctuary to come in when I point to you, and each time you're going to start at the beginning, and I'll point to this side of the sanctuary to come in at the third part, but you're going to come in at the beginning. Do you all understand? You're starting at the beginning? Got it. Here we go. Shalom Havarim, Shalom Havarim, Shalom. We're a no-fault harmony congregation. You just come in where you feel good. All right? Go for it. One. If you're one, raise your hand. Yeah, ones. All right, there you go. Twos and threes. All together, and then we'll do parts. And if you're wondering, it's lahit raot. Shalom, shalom. Shalom havarim, shalom havarim, shalom, shalom. Lahit rayot, shalom, shalom. Ones, shalom havarim. It's twos, threes. One's right back. Shalom havarim, shalom havarim, shalom, shalom. Lahit raot, shalom, shalom. I'm telling you, you all need to join the choir. Just saying. These are the words of Rebecca Savage. Spirit of life and love, we have gathered under the banner of a shared faith. We are born of a welcoming grace that extends and receives love. We are touched by the ways we have fallen short of who we strive to be. And we hear, we reborn, forged by a greater courage. Let us move from this place, encouraged and refreshed for the journey ahead. Amen, and blessed be.
Go.
opportunity for conversation and refreshment. Our service, our act of worship is concluded, but our service continues. Yours be a wondrous and wonderful week.